The Sons of Liberty was a secret organization that played a key role leading up to the American Revolution. Here's that story. The group was formed in 1765 as a response to the Stamp Act that British Parliament had just put forth onto the colonies. This act required the colonists to pay a tax on every single piece of paper that they used in an official capacity, whether it was an official document or a newspaper. The Sons of Liberty were led by key figures. There was Sam Adams and John Hancock, and Paul Revere, and Joseph Warren. The Sons of Liberty met in taverns and at homes, but there were three very famous places where they met. They'd meet at Faneuil Hall, which was considered the cradle of liberty. They'd meet at the Liberty Tree, which was on the corner of Washington and Essex Streets near Boston. And they would meet at the Green Dragon Tavern, and they would have discussions, and they would make plans, and they would organize. And this proved to be some of the most effective organizing in the history of our country. Other chapters were cropping up throughout the colonies, and another chapter in South Carolina was led by Christopher Gadsden. Now we know him because of his famous snake flag. No step. His group was not formally organized, but rather a loose association with common goals. The Sons of Liberty are known for two major events. The first was the Stamp Act protests, and this involved protesting. It also involved the release of a Sons of Liberty newspaper. They also tarred and feathered the tax collectors and the stamp distributors, an absolute American institution. The next event was perhaps the most iconic, and that was the Boston Tea Party. That was the powder keg for the revolution. This is what kind of created this colonial unity and laid the groundwork for everything that was going to follow through 1791, the passing of the Bill of Rights. Not only did they organize the protest, but they also spread ideology through pamphlets and through newspapers. Now, the Boston Tea Party infuriated King George, and he levied the Intolerable Acts onto Massachusetts following that, which pretty much wiped out all of their government and replaced it with King George's own government. It also closed their ports until they were to repay the East India Company for all the lost product. Would have been about over $1 million in today's money, and the colonists never paid it. After the Boston Tea Party, King George put a bounty on the heads of Sam Adams and John Hancock. So Sam Adams and John Hancock would essentially keep a low profile, go into hiding, that sort of thing. Now, leading up to 1775 in the battles of Lexington and Concord, they were hiding out in Lexington. And Paul Revere rode to warn them that the British were coming for them. So he never actually made it to warn the colonists, but his other riders did. Paul Revere was actually captured on his way to Concord and released shortly after. John Hancock and Sam Adams would live another day. They'd go on to keep a low profile until it came to the signing of the Declaration of Independence. John Hancock was famously offended by the low bounty that King George had placed on his head. So he was the first to sign the Declaration of Independence. And he signed right there, big in the middle for everybody to see, because he wanted King George to read it without his spectacles. Now you know the real reason. John Hancock was there to taunt King George. Based. The Sons of Liberty were instrumental in galvanizing public opinion against the British Empire. They increased colonial unity and laid all the groundwork for the American Revolution. And once the revolution started, this group sort of faded away. They remain a symbol of American patriotism through this day. Their legacy is one of organized resistance against tyranny, champions of liberty and independence. And their methods demonstrate the complexities of political activism, including using anonymity. Anonymity streamlines revolutions. These were some of the bravest men who ever lived. Had John Hancock and Sam Adams been caught, they would have been hanged for treason. Instead, they are a pivotal symbol of American patriotism in these United States. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and stay free.